A not guilty verdict was handed down today, but what followed wasn't freedom. It was silence. What happens next? Stay
Sean
with
Diddy
us.
Combs intend to walk out of court a free man, yet he's still trapped in ways the public wasn't told. What happened next changes everything about this case. The world thought the verdict meant the end of the story. But people close to the situation say the real punishment didn't start until after the acquittal. And the people orchestrating it aren't wearing robes, they're wearing diamonds. What really happened after that courtroom door closed may shock you. This is the moment everything the public thought they knew about justice, power, and consequences got turned completely upside down. Our investigation takes you inside that courtroom and reveals what happened when the judge's gavel came down and those two words echoed through the silence: not guilty. For months, the public watched this case unfold like a primetime drama. The prosecution painted a picture of a man who had abused his power, who had operated above the law for decades. They brought witness after witness, presented evidence that seemed damning, and built what appeared to be an airtight case. But court observers report something the cameras didn't show. When that judge said not guilty, it wasn't applause that followed, it was silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Legal experts who witnessed the jury's faces as they delivered their verdict described 12 people who didn't look satisfied. These were 12 people who looked like they just witnessed something they couldn't process. The defense had done their job. They'd raised reasonable doubt and followed the law to the letter. But sources in that courtroom now reveal a chilling realization: the courtroom wasn't the battlefield. It never had been. The real war was happening somewhere else entirely. What unfolded in the 48 hours after that verdict was unlike anything legal observers had witnessed. Usually, when someone beats serious charges, there's celebration, relief, a return to normalcy. Not this time. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Social media exploded with rage. Hashtags like #JusticeDelayed and #ManyTalks started trending within hours. The court of public opinion had delivered its own verdict, and it wasn't not guilty. But here's where it gets really dark. The media suddenly shifted. Opinion pieces questioned the jury's decision. Late-night hosts made jokes that felt like character assassinations. One by one, brands dropped their associations. Endorsement deals vanished overnight. People who had been friends for decades suddenly became too busy to return calls. An industry insider told our investigation something that reveals the true nature of what was happening: they didn't want justice. They wanted exile. Freedom wasn't freedom. It became a new kind of cage, one without bars, but no exit. Even after the acquittal, civil lawsuits piled up. Every move was watched, documented, analyzed. Paparazzi followed him everywhere, but these weren't usual celebrity photographers. These were people with expensive equipment, unlimited resources, clearly being paid by someone with deep pockets. Our investigation uncovered disturbing patterns. The same faces at different locations. The same cars outside his properties. The same journalists asking loaded questions at every appearance. This wasn't random. This was coordinated, systematic, designed to make normal life impossible. A security expert told our team, "This is textbook psychological warfare. You can't arrest someone who's been acquitted, but you can make them wish they'd never been born." Perhaps the most telling sign was watching who stayed and who disappeared from his circle. Industry veterans who had worked with him for decades became unreachable. Collaborators who had defended him throughout the trial went silent. People who had been vocal supporters started distancing themselves without explanation. Our investigation reached out to several of these people. Most didn't respond. The few who did speak painted a picture of an industry under pressure. People are being told to pick a side, and one side has consequences, one longtime associate revealed. What kind of consequences? Social media posts featuring him were deleted. Photos from events were removed from websites. Press releases mentioning collaborations mysteriously vanished. This wasn't just distancing, this was systematic erasure. 3 months after the acquittal, something changed. The harassment intensified. The surveillance became more obvious. The isolation became complete. Then, just when it seemed like the pressure couldn't get worse, he made a decision that would change everything. He decided to fight back. Not in court this time, but in the court of public opinion. He started planning a tell-all interview, reaching out to journalists, gathering evidence of the campaign against him. For the first time since the verdict, sources say he seemed to have hope. The interview was scheduled. The questions were prepared. The stage was set for what would have been the most explosive celebrity interview in decades. Then, silence. No interview. No public appearances. No statements. What silenced him? Our investigation reveals he wasn't afraid of prison. He was afraid of them. Here's what weeks of investigation uncovered: the campaign against him wasn't random. It wasn't organic. It wasn't even primarily about the original charges. It was about power. It was about control. It was about what happens when someone knows too much about the wrong people. During the trial, certain names that should have come up never did. Certain evidence mysteriously became inadmissible. Certain witnesses never took the stand. At the time, legal experts assumed this was standard legal strategy. But our investigation reveals some of these omissions weren't strategic, they were negotiated. The people who really run this industry, the ones whose names never appear in headlines, who make decisions in boardrooms that affect millions, they have something more powerful than money. They have leverage. And when someone threatens to pull back the curtain on how power really operates, when someone gets too close to exposing the truth, that's when the real consequences begin. The acquittal wasn't the end of his legal troubles. It was the beginning of something much worse. Our investigation obtained screenshots of messages said to be sent between high-level industry executives in the weeks following the verdict. While we cannot verify their authenticity, the content is chilling. The court case was just the opening act. The real show starts now. Make sure he understands that silence is his only option. Some secrets are worth more than careers. Some secrets are worth more than lives. Through sources who cannot be named, our investigation learned about a series of financial settlements negotiated after the trial. Not the civil lawsuits filed publicly, those were just the tip of the iceberg. These were private agreements. Confidential settlements. Payments made to ensure silence about matters that had never been part of the public record. The amounts were substantial. The confidentiality clauses were ironclad. The consequences for violation were severe. So yes, Diddy was acquitted. But justice? Justice was never on trial. What was on trial was whether someone could be held accountable for actions that threatened the power structure of an entire industry. Whether the law could touch someone who knew where the bodies were buried. The verdict answered those questions, but not in the way anyone expected. Today, he lives in limbo. Free according to the law, but imprisoned by circumstances that go far beyond any courtroom. Acquitted of the charges, but convicted by a system that operates outside the legal framework. He hasn't given that tell-all interview. He hasn't written that explosive book. He hasn't exposed the secrets that everyone knows he possesses. And if he speaks now, what does he stand to lose? This story serves as a warning. It's a glimpse behind the curtain of how power really works. It's a reminder that there are forces in our society more powerful than courts, more influential than votes, more dangerous than any individual criminal. The scariest part isn't what happened to him. The scariest part is how easily it happened. How smoothly the machine operated. How effectively the system protected itself. And here's the final twist: last week, our investigation received a call from an unknown number. The voice was disguised, but the message was clear: stop digging. Some stories aren't meant to be told. The call lasted less than 30 seconds. The number was untraceable. But the message was unmistakable. This story isn't over. It's just been driven underground. The question that emerges from this investigation isn't whether he was guilty or innocent of the original charges. The question that demands an answer is, what did he know that made him so dangerous that even an acquittal couldn't set him free? What secrets does he possess that are worth more than his freedom, more than his career, more than his reputation? And most importantly, how many other people are carrying similar secrets, living in similar fear, trapped in similar cages without bars? This case revealed something most people don't want to acknowledge. There are two justice systems in America. One for people who play by the rules, who know their place in the hierarchy. And another for people who threaten the system itself. For people who know too much. For people who refuse to stay silent. The first system operates in courtrooms, with judges and juries. The second operates in boardrooms, with settlements and silence and social destruction. Our investigation shows which one is more powerful. Our investigation uncovered a sophisticated network of influence that spans multiple industries. Entertainment executives, media moguls, financial institutions, and political figures all connected through a web of mutual interests and shared secrets. When someone threatens to expose this network, the response is swift and coordinated. Phone calls are made. Meetings are held. Strategies are developed. The goal isn't just to silence one person, it's to send a message to anyone else who might be considering speaking out. A former industry executive, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed, there's a playbook for this. First, you isolate them socially. Then you destroy them financially. Finally, you make them irrelevant culturally. By the time you're done, they're not just silenced, they're erased. The financial assault was particularly devastating. Within weeks of the acquittal, multiple business ventures faced unexpected complications. Licensing deals were suddenly under review. Investment opportunities evaporated. Banking relationships became strained. Sources in the financial sector describe a coordinated effort to make normal business operations impossible. It's not illegal, one banking insider explained. It's just that suddenly, every transaction requires extra scrutiny. Every deal needs additional approval. Every contract faces unexpected delays. The message was clear: compliance would be rewarded, defiance would be punished. The tools weren't guns or physical violence, they were spreadsheets and legal documents. But the effect was just as devastating. Perhaps most disturbing was the systematic manipulation of media coverage. Stories that painted him in a positive light were killed before publication. Journalists who expressed interest in investigating the campaign against him found their editors suddenly uninterested in the story. A veteran entertainment reporter told our investigation, "I've never seen anything like it. Stories that should have been front-page news just disappeared." Sources who had been talking suddenly went silent. It was like watching someone get erased from history in real time. The few media outlets that did attempt to cover the story found themselves facing their own pressure. Advertising revenue was threatened. Access to other stories was cut off. The message was clear: some stories are too dangerous to tell. The choice we face isn't just about this case. It's about what kind of society we want to live in. Do we want justice determined by courts and evidence? Or by whoever has the most power to manipulate public opinion? This story matters. Not just for the people directly involved, but for all of us who live in a society where this kind of thing is possible. This case represents something larger than one individual's legal troubles. It's a blueprint for how power protects itself in the 21st century. The tools of control have evolved beyond traditional methods. Today's power brokers don't need to rely on crude intimidation or obvious corruption. Instead, they use sophisticated networks of influence that operate within legal boundaries but achieve illegal results. They use financial pressure, social isolation, and media manipulation to achieve what the legal system couldn't: complete control over someone who threatened their interests. Legal scholars are calling this phenomenon extrajudicial punishment, consequences that exist outside the formal justice system but are no less real or devastating. Professor Sarah Chen from Columbia Law School explains, "We're seeing the emergence of a parallel system of accountability that operates independently of courts and laws. It's more efficient than the legal system, but it's also more dangerous to democratic principles." The impact of this case extends far beyond one individual. Other celebrities, business leaders, and public figures are taking note. The message is clear: challenge the system at your own risk. Sources in the entertainment industry report a chilling effect on behavior. People are more cautious about what they say, who they associate with, and what causes they support. The fear isn't just about legal consequences, it's about social and financial annihilation. Everyone's walking on eggshells now, one industry insider revealed. You see what happened to him, and you realize it could happen to anyone. All it takes is knowing too much or saying too much, and suddenly you're not just losing a court case, you're losing your entire life. So we leave you with this question: was he really innocent? Or was this a trade-off between guilt and silence? The answer matters less than the fact that we're asking the question. Because as long as we're asking questions, as long as we're demanding answers, the system can't operate with complete impunity. This story isn't over, and neither is he. Our investigation continues to follow developments in this case. Because innocent in court doesn't mean free in life. And sometimes, the most important battles are the ones that happen after the verdict is read. The real question isn't whether justice was served in that courtroom. The real question is whether justice is possible in a system designed to protect the powerful from accountability. And that's a question that affects all of us, whether we realize it or not. Next week, our investigation will reveal what we've learned about other cases that follow this same pattern. The names might surprise you. The connections might shock you. Stay tuned, because what comes next is going to change everything you think you know about how power really works in America. The verdict may be in, but the real story is just beginning.